All right, everybody, welcome back to the show. So excited to have you today. I've got one of my favorite people to listen to. And the reason is she brings a ton of energy. Rebecca Hourihan, did I say that right?
You did.
She is the Chief Marketing Officer at 401k Marketing. So she knows a thing or two about how to attract and find new clients and put your brand and your name out there. So I thought we need to have her on here. We need to talk about what we can do to get ready for next year. I know what people are planning. Welcome to the show, Rebecca. So happy to have you.
Thanks, Jake. I'm honored to be here and excited to share some marketing best practices.
Awesome. So I'm super excited because you are one that inspired me to kind of be where I am now. I've always been fascinated with the 401k space, but one people they should know this by now, but I love marketing. I love the idea of not trying to convince people, but to how to get your message out and create a brand and create awareness. I think that is something that I love to read about. I love to learn about and try and test. So tell me, what was it that got you so hooked into this where you ended up being in this niche of 401k with marketing?
So that is, I was working at LPL about a decade ago now. And one of my favorite advisors, she had just won Plan Advisor of the Year. So like the big award,
That's a big one.
10 years ago, that was like the coveted award. And I'm talking to her and I go, okay, what are we going to do? We're going to do a press release. We're going to do an email to your clients. Do you want to do like a card? How do we want to share this with the world? And she's just so humble. She's like, no, it's all right. I got a shelf of awards. I'm good. And I went, what are you? No, this needs to be shouted from the mountaintops. And that was the first of a small warming light bulb that started to go off that said, wait a minute, retirement plan advisors are unique and they need help to market their great work that they do.
Yeah, I think that's very true because I don't see a lot of training that is done, particularly around how to create a brand, how to understand marketing. And I'm a big fan of helping people separate sales from marketing and even branding from that. And a lot of times it gets lumped into one thing and it's straight for the sale. And I just think there needs to be more thought and energy put into that. And I think you have really the market locked up as far as in that space. I mean, you come up when you want to look at 401k marketing, obviously that's the name of your company and what you do. And so that's how I found you. I mean, it was literally 6 years ago. I was launching a whole 401k division, and where was I going to start? I ended up finding a lot of content from you. So
awesome.
it was a fun path, a fun thing to learn. And what I find is that most advisors really still struggle. Even the most experienced ones struggle. And so what I wanted to do today was just talk to you about that, about kind of some things that even if you are, in a thriving practice, you've got plenty of clients. If you're still servicing clients and you aren't really trying to grow a ton, you still have to put the work in because there's going to be some attrition. There's going to be, maybe an acquisition or something. You want to continue to have your name out there. So let's talk about that. What are some of maybe we talk about the things that people should stop doing or the things that you think we should look out for. Where do you want to take it first?
I want to start with the idea of you never want to have someone eat your lunch. So if you're an advisor and you're a successful retirement plan advisor, congratulations. That's awesome. Like you have made it to the promised land, but you always want to keep making sure that your brand is relevant, that people respect you, and that you're maintaining your professional reputation. And that is going to include making sure that your website is always up to date. A lot of times people have, I'll get to my website when I have time, and it just kind of stays in the back of the mind. We recommend that everyone update their website about every 3 years. It's kind of changing now since everything's moving towards a digital world, but at least every 3 years. But then every year you want to do some spring cleaning on your website. Just check it out. Ask some friends, ask some industry folk like, hey, can you just look at my website, make sure it's still relevant? Do I have any broken links? Did I start a blog and then never continue posting on my blog? Are there things there like
There's so many of those, right?
Oh my goodness,
like
so many.
When's the last time they did a blog? Oh, last 2018 in May. Like what happened? So that's a very, good point as well. And you can repurpose that. I think people forget you don't have to reinvent the wheel, but there's also a thought of when you do blogs and put out content is people struggle. Well, I don't know what to put out there. And then they just start putting fluff, and they look for shortcuts, and they get things that other people have. Uh, And that's one thing that I focus on too, is like websites are not, back in the day when we first started on the internet, right? It was
Mhm.
like you spent all this time and money building a website, and that was like, you
You
launched
did
it and it was like,
it.
here we go, it's done.
Ah!
I don't believe in that anymore. I don't
No.
think that's the case. I mean, I literally think you could have more success if you just had a really good setup or page on Facebook, on LinkedIn, like people could find you.
Hmm.
You don't even, I mean, a website is very important. I'm not saying don't do that, but I'm saying if you just have a static one that has no continually upkeep and new content, it's not really helping you.
No, no, not at all. It's actually hurting you. So
Right.
going back to the don't let anyone eat your lunch. By maintaining your digital presence, you're gonna stop any competitors from actually making the next inroad. If you've ever done cold calling for plan sponsors, what's the number one thing that they say? What do they say, Jake?
Oh, there's lots of stuff. The number one thing, I
Hmm.
mean, they're they're happy with what they got. They're not looking for anything else.
Yeah, I'm
They're,
all
they're
set.
yeah,
I'm all
they're
set.
content.
I'm good. I'm all
Yep.
set. Well, how amazing is it if your clients, when they're approached via LinkedIn, via email, via phone calls, and they just go, I'm all set. Like that's bulletproofing your business. However, if you let your all of your digital presences slip, they might go, wait a minute, market volatility, CARES Act, Secure Act, a lot of stuff to talk about. How come my advisor's not keeping me up on that? Maybe
Yeah.
I'm not all set. Never
Yeah.
let
That's
the
a very
doubt
good point.
creep in.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, that's where advisors, I think they like to lean on compliance, saying, well, I gotta get it through compliance. That's too hard. They say no. And so they just don't do it. They just stop. And it takes effort. It's not something that is going to be easy, but the rewards over the long period of time are going to be so much bigger if you're able to produce content in a variety of different places, including your website.
Mhm.
What's the biggest tip? I mean, I know there's been a huge trend. People have a lot of advisors I see gravitate towards like 20 over 10 has been a firm that people use.
Yeah.
Samantha over there puts out tons of good content. What do you see as the most common platform or way people are setting up the website in a way that they can keep it going and adding more content to it? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it
Like,
does.
because
You got to get your team involved. I mean, that's the biggest thing. There's kind of two schools of thought. I'm sure everyone's heard of this before. You either have time or you have money, but you can't have
yeah,
both. So if you have the time, then yeah, you can block off a day on your calendar, answer a question that your client has. So if one of your clients has a question and they ask it to you, write an article of answering that question, because chances are if they have a question, thousands of other people probably have that exact same question. It's
yeah,
also important to use the language that your client actually used, because that's the way that their mind processes it. And that's also something that if you put that language specifically, even though it might sound a little wonky to you, it's what other plan sponsors in that same kind of buying cycle, that's what they're going to keystroke into Google. So it's really important to listen to your clients and then literally copy the words that they use. So if you have the time, get your team involved, pick a topic, and then sit down and come up with some sort of marketing plan. If you don't have the time, but you have the resources, well, there are great companies, self-promotional plug here,
yeah.
like
So
ours,
yeah, tell me, is that what
who
you
can
guys,
help you.
you'll manage a website for
Mhm.
advisors? Okay.
Yeah, we write blog articles, design infographics, best practice guides for plan sponsors, and we do it when we constantly are refreshing our content. So every quarter, our clients have brand new stuff coming directly into their inboxes. And then, depending on how they work with us, either they implement it on their behalf or we do it for them.
Got it. Okay. That's helpful. When I first started, that was always a struggle for me because I didn't have really either. I didn't have a team and I didn't have a lot of money. So I was just like, what are we going to do here? And, I hired a friend to build a website, and it
Hmm.
cost more money than I wanted. And then it was like, I couldn't change things and I couldn't update things. And so I've always been, I think technology is getting better in that area where it's not this, I don't know how to do the website, but now you actually can get access
Yeah.
and drop your posts and do things that are much easier. And I
Hmm.
think that's what's going to add value, is it becomes more real about you and the connections people can have with you through your site, not just a cold corporate kind of different brand. And
Yeah.
that's something that I think is really interesting that we're seeing happen slowly in the financial services industry, and even
Hmm.
slower, I'd say, in 401k space. But it's exciting.
It
So
is.
okay, so what else? Website, get that up and running. Get some
Hmm.
updates to that, and I would say check on some of the algorithms, some of the stuff that needs to happen to make sure it's functionally where it should be.
Hmm.
And I don't focus so much on that. My team, they do a lot kind of to look at that. I'm more like, just push out content. Like, just, I don't want to try and cheat the algorithm. I want to just put out content.
Hmm.
But it is important to think through some of those things.
Yeah, you do spend about 80% of your thought capital on the title of your article. So keep that in mind whenever you're thinking about title and how good it is. There's a lot of resources online too that you can check how your article is going to perform. Um, you have to always have a lens over that though, because we are in such a niche marketplace. Like,
Yeah.
we're not doing like 10 places to vacation this year. Like, it's going to be like 10 problems plan sponsors have, or some variation of that. So you're never going to get like 100% if you try and test your headlines. But if you get in the 70s, like that's gold.
Yeah. Yeah. Good point. So get your website going. What's next?
Okay, so we are about to launch into a new year. We are, thank you so much for playing 2020.
Yeah.
Sit down.
I remember how fired I put New Year's Eve last year. I was so
Yeah.
pumped. I was like, here we go. We're starting 2020.
Yeah,
And I think a lot of people felt that way. New decade, let's do this.
right.
And we've just been thrown into a completely different world. And I'm coming out of it much more excited.
Oh,
And I
good.
hope people are starting to have that mentality, and not to
Mhm.
throw away 2020, but I think it was a chance to grow and figure out, how effective you could be from your front office in your house.
Mhm.
And I think that's exciting. So how do we play off of that? What do we do next
Okay.
for 2021?
Well, a lot of business owners, when they're launching into a new year, they look back at the year before and they say, our profitability, our balance sheet, how did we do year over year, 3 years, 5 years, etc. And then they say, where do we want to go? What's next?
Yeah.
When we graduate to 2022, what is my definition of success? And then they write it down, and they say, like, I want to have X new clients or increase profitability or hire a new teammate. And they start to think business plans, right? You've done this, right?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Many
Well,
times.
if you are sitting down and you're doing your business plan, chances are, if one of your goals is to increase your overall bottom line, what's one of the ways that you can do that?
You got to win more plans. And
Marketing.
you've got to get more attention.
Yeah, you got to do marketing.
Yep.
So as part of your business plan, create a marketing plan.
And do you segment the marketing plan into different like different areas? Because that's something I've been working on for our forum club members,
Mm-hmm.
is social media. I think people are still struggling. They don't know how to navigate it.
Yeah.
And it's a monster, but it's so, so important, because that's where most of us spend our extra time. So you've got to be there, but you have to understand how to be there.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you divide? How does a marketing plan work? What would you say is the easiest way to get started and really set it up correctly?
I would pick one thing per month that you want to accomplish. I'm going to use an analogy here. And when you first go to the gym for the very first time, if you're like me, you walk around the gym, you realize you know what none of these machines are, and you run away as fast as possible because it's very intimidating. Then your friend is like, come on, do it again. Let's do it again. And then eventually you're like, all right, I can do this elliptical thing. I can like lift a weight. I can figure it out. Same exact thing in marketing. The very first time you try to do marketing, you're going to be completely overwhelmed. Super normal, just like going to the gym. Pick one thing that looks unintimidating. For me, an elliptical is unintimidating. For you, it sounds like social media. For someone else, it might be writing. It might be creating visual posts. Canva is an awesome application. It's mostly free, a couple dollars here or there. But Canva,
I live on
Canva,
Canva.
it's such a great
There's
Great.
not a day that goes by I'm not on Canva.
Yeah. So Canva is an awesome, everyone should probably just Google that afterwards, do like a quick tutorial. It's 2 minutes, 3 minutes just to check out what's available. If people like being on podcasts, the cost of entry now for podcasts is not what it used to be 3 years ago. You could do videos. I've seen you do some videos. You got your iPhone, video, recording, live. It's an option. So one
Video
thing that's intimidating.
is big. Yeah, video is big, and I try to push everyone in that direction.
Mhm.
But it's not for everybody. Like I'm not good at writing blogs. Like I struggle to sit down and write out a whole long post like that. But I can shoot a video, and I'm not saying I'm the best. Like I love it enough that I'll make mistakes, and I don't care what people react. If they do react poorly, I don't care. You have to get
Mhm.
over what people think if you're ever going to get ahead in this game, because that will stop you. And the same, I love that gym analogy. I mean, honestly, if you think about going to the gym, where do you learn how to do different things or lift different weights and do it different ways? It's other people around you being creative, and you can follow them on Instagram, or you can look at other ways to do things. But honestly, that's the way you get into it. You get it and spend some time on marketing. You'll find other things. Wow, I want to try that. And maybe it'll work. Maybe you'll hate it.
Yeah.
What do you have to lose? Right.
What do you have to
That's a
lose?
great analogy. I love that.
Webinars are also great. There's a lot of great content that home offices as well as service providers and DCAOs have, and a lot of times they'll partner with you directly to co-host a webinar. So if you do the intro, like, "Hi everyone, welcome to an overview of ESG funds and a new word that no one knew before, perfunctory." I think I'm saying that correctly. And here is American Century. And then they'll give a whole presentation around it. And then you say, "Thanks everyone for joining." And most compliance teams already have that pre-approved. So there's lots of different ideas. So start with one, write it down and say, "In the month of January, I would like to," whatever it is,
Right.
send an email to our clients. Wish them Happy New Year. Marketing doesn't always have to be like content heavy. It can literally just be happy holidays. Like that's technically a form of marketing. So if you haven't done a happy holidays or wishing you the best in the new year, start there.
Yeah. And I always work on kind of top down. So I look at the whole year. Okay, what do I want to accomplish? And then I go a little more narrow, talk monthly, like you're saying. And then I go weekly, down to daily. And so the little daily tasks add up to the larger goal. And you can't always measure the return on that investment. And that's the thing that is hard is, well, this time I spend on LinkedIn, I feel like I'm wasting time. Well, you might be if you're just strolling through, like not even making comments or anything. Yeah, it's a waste of time. Probably you're getting some information, but you've got to start engaging, and you have to start getting involved instead of the guy or gal sitting in the the happy hour just waiting on the side for someone to come talk to you, because that's just not going to work. You've got to get in the conversation, and there's conversations 24/7 all the time on your phone wherever you are. And that's the greatest thing, if you can get that in your head to do that. One thing I want to ask you a question, because I tried doing the webinar thing with my participants of my plans. And I have a lot of physician groups. So I have a variable of physicians that are super hard to catch and get their time. And then I have a lot of their staff who are just kind of scraping by, and their plans are not designed with a match. So they don't really have a whole lot of interest, because they just kind of look at it as a bonus that gets, so they can't get access to till they're 59 and a half. And so I'm trying to get more engagement there. And so we've done a monthly webinar, and we kind of structured it in a way that each quarter had a different kind of theme, but then we split up each month and each quarter from early career, mid-career, and end career. So it kind of was like target those people where they were. And I mean, it's up and down as far as how people show up there. And the problem was I don't have everybody's emails. And so I've been kind of working through the plan sponsors, and every way getting them an email from the plan sponsor with a link to the page to sign up, to get a reminder. And it's just been a real tough process, and it's been frustrating. And that's something we've been trying to figure out. How do we do this better? How can we get more content to our participants, not to sell them or cross sell? I mean, potentially we want to help hand those off to our advisor team, but what ideas do you have? We've kind of, I don't say we failed, but we did not feel it was a success. And I want to reassess that, and I want to do better in 2021. I think a lot of people have tried some things like that and maybe just gave up. What can you do to make that more appealing and connect better.
So the first thing, how long are your videos, the webinars?
We started out by blocking out an hour. We got them down to 20 minutes because we were like,
Yeah,
this is not working
20
out.
minutes is great. Yeah, 20
Yeah.
minutes is about like the appetite, about a normal TV show. 20
Yeah.
minutes with
Just
commercials.
right to the point, leave it open for questions.
So Ross Marino, the gentleman who created 401k Recon and now the Advisor 2X and the 401k conference, Excel 401k, sorry, the Excel
Yeah.
401k conference. And he always says that financial services do not begin until there's a life event. So the person has to have some sort of life event for them to say, oh my goodness, college planning. You know, my 5-year-old started asking me about like, what is Harvard type deal? And they're like, oh, geez. Oh, I don't know how to tell you that, but probably Harvard's not your future. But that would be an example of a life event. And then that person would then say, oh, we probably need to talk about saving for college, a 529 plan. Did I get an email about that? You know, and that's where your page will come in. So if you have it broken out by whatever that, whatever the life stages that you mentioned, and if one of those talks about college planning, that's when they're going to click into that. The one thing I will mention is barriers to entry. So the easier that it is for your participants to watch, the better. And it's a give and take because, you know, you're not going to get their information, but you're going to reduce the barriers to entry or reduce the friction to access that. So
Right.
that's a decision you have to make from a business side. Like, how much of this data do I really want to capture to find out who's watching these videos, or how much of it am I comfortable just openly sharing and then seeing what the overall metric is on people who are watching?
Yeah, it's a very good point. A lot of us put up too many boxes to ask for information on the website. You know, to get even access to you, you've got to submit, 6 to 8 different things. And it's like, then that sends you a message, then you got to reach out to them. It's like, why are we making this so difficult to get in touch? And if that's the goal of the website or whatever post you're making, to get a meeting with you, and I don't even like that term anymore. Meetings just kind of like scare people. So it's almost like you have to just set expectations and shorten that time and make sure it's really valuable for them. And that's what I there's such a range of need when you talk about finances, because I've done a lot of wellness presentations. I've gone to huge companies here in Utah, and I've presented and done like 6-week courses and things. And I made it very real, shared a lot of stories and made it really actionable. And even then you got people that are just like, I don't even know where my money goes. And you got people that want to talk about, every metric in a mutual fund and want to dive really deep into each fund and argue with you about this one over that one. And you just have to, it's so hard to navigate that sometimes, and it's overwhelming. And so where do you begin? I think you just have to start somewhere and try to put yourself in their shoes. And that's what I've always tried to do, is like, what are those life events? What are happening in people's lives right now? They're stuck at home. Like, maybe they're nervous. The market's dropping, the market's up. What are the things? So that's a very good point.
Yeah, they've got kids running around. They have, there's been these crazy statistics out there recently about basically like savings gaps, talking about diversity and inclusion, super important, talking about how women, thanks to this pandemic, are leaving the workforce at a 1.3 times faster than their male coworkers, which is crazy. They're also talking about how working double household families to 2 parents, that the female parent, because only mom makes peanut butter and jelly the right way, they're on average working 20 hours more, like setting up the virtual classroom, cleaning up after the day, and they're double parents. So like, your spouse is obviously so important and helpful, but they're looking at the stats and saying how disproportionately it is with women taking on those extra roles. The statistics are terrible. Like, don't anyone go down the rabbit hole on stats right now. It's very depressing. Very depressing. But topical comments and articles, and this is what a lot of people are curious about. And how does that affect the retirement plan is another angle that you can look at. And it's all about financial wellness.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely is. And that I think it's even more important to know your target client. And
Mhm.
so I wanted to lead into that. What are your thoughts around, niching down? Like, what's the best way to do that? Why should you or shouldn't you? Because I get, when I ask an advisor that I first meet, I said, who do you help? Who's your
Yeah.
target? It's always a size of an account
Mhm.
and never anything
Exactly.
else.
Yeah.
Drives me crazy.
Yeah.
We're hunting for people
1
with
to
5,500
5
data.
million, within 25 miles of my office type deal.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
How do we get people to not do that anymore? And why
I
should
don't
they not?
think I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I grew up in a rural town in Connecticut, and everyone knows everyone. My parents owned a garden center for 40 years there. We were the third generation to run it. So when people think flowers and they think fresh corn on the cob, they think of Nash's Garden Center. It's the name of the company my parents used to own.
Nice.
And so if you're going to be that advisor within that neighborhood, that 20-mile, 50-mile radius, and you're the retirement guy, air quotes, you're the retirement person, that works, especially, if you grew up where rural America, that's perfect. Like, you can absolutely own your backyard. And if you
Mhm.
decide, like you did, to make a market in the doctor space, you just need to figure out like what are the needs that doctors have that are different than having that are specific. So mostly probably a lot around plan design would be,
Yeah. I
a
mean,
big
tax
deal you want
strategy
to talk
is
about.
the key thing.
Mhm.
And I think that's going to get stronger and stronger for a lot of different advisors is the focus on the 401k's power behind tax strategy,
Mhm.
not necessarily this cultural, we expect it as a business, you got to have it and all those things, which I'd say the industry as a whole focuses on too much
Hmm.
because it's really one piece. I don't even like to say 401k plan. Like I like 401k account because it's not, there's so much more to the actual plan than just your 401k account. And
Hmm.
that's what I try to help. And it resonates with a lot of people because they get that it's not working for the majority of people to just retire with only their 401k.
Hmm.
But if they understand how it fits into the puzzle, especially early on in their life, then it can be way more effective and they can save more money on tax and they can understand how to navigate that. Because here we are so focused on the market, yet we're paying 22, 24, 35% taxes. And we
Yeah.
like, oh, but I only got 8% in my account. Like, well, you're missing the boat here. This is three times
Mhm.
that. So it's fascinating the way that we're trained in the industry to focus on some things that I don't think resonate with everybody. But
Mhm. I love how Jeannie Fisher always talks about Roth, where she's like, my finalist presentation is about the Roth 401k. She's like, that's it. That's what we talk. I just love her enthusiasm. And the reason she always talks about the Roth is because everyone focuses in on your tax bracket. So, what's your tax bracket today versus what's your tax bracket tomorrow?
yeah,
And allegedly, a lot of folks think like, oh, when I retire, I'll have less tax bracket, therefore I'll be able to take out the money at a lower rate, and I'll win. And Jeannie's always like, banging on the table, just like,
yeah,
no, you forgot about the compound growth. And that's what she'll talk about is the compound growth. Remember, I saw her speak at the Excel 401k, and I literally went, oh yeah, huh, that's brilliant. So I think if we talk to our younger people about the importance of pre-tax, the Roth account, sorry. And then we talk to our middle people about the Roth account. And then we talk to our older people about the importance of a Roth. And then if you need that tax flexibility, that's where the pre-tax comes in. Mm.
yeah. It's definitely. I spend a lot of my time just educating people on that,
Mhm.
just understanding what the tax bracket system is and how it works. And I always give them a homework assignment. That's like I said, go home, find your taxes, call your accountant, look at your H&R block, whatever it is, find out what your marginal tax bracket is, and then we can actually determine what makes the most sense for you.
Mhm.
And the majority of people, obviously, Roth does make a ton of sense because only when you're in the top end, the math really is in your favor to not. But it really just depends. I'm always fascinated. I'll meet somebody and I think I think I've got it figured out, and I don't realize they have a lot of other things going on. And it's fascinating because how much money they're bringing in, and they have not really thought this tax strategy thing through.
Mhm.
And if they did, they could really set themselves so well. It's just really, I love that about my job because it's just so
Mhm.
fun to actually see real lives changing
Oh
because
yeah.
of some of the things I can teach them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how do you package it up in a way that you can have others that don't know you find out that you're able to bring that value.
Mhm.
That's the struggle with marketing is
Marketing.
you can do it on the ground in an enrollment meeting, but can you actually present that to someone that doesn't know you
Mhm.
and they get that feeling?
Well, that's the
So
beauty of where we live today. There's so many digital ways to get that out there. You could write an article about it. You could do an explainer video. So one of those like fun little cartoon videos. That's actually a great idea. Make it very simple, then make and help people understand. You could host a webinar on it. You could do a podcast on it. And there's a
yeah,
lot of different ways that you can get that word out there. And it doesn't have to be within your 25-mile geography.
right. Yeah. And so you just started your podcast. Tell me what your thoughts are around advisors starting at, if someone comes to you and says, look, we want to do a podcast. Is that something your team helps out with? What kind of feedback do you have? Because I'm a huge fan. I love it. I just had,
Thanks.
well, last night and this morning, I had a client text me. They listen to my podcast, which
Nice.
is not really meant for clients, but it covers things like cash balance plans, and they were really interested. So
Sure.
I think it's going to eventually run its course, and people will be like, I don't want to be in your podcast. Like, I'm sick of this. But right now we're in like the real like prime time of getting it going, and you can open up doors that you never could before.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's really fun. What are your thoughts
Nice.
on podcasting?
So full disclosure, we hired a company to help us. They're called Top Advisor Marketing. It's run by Kirk Lowe and Matt Holleran. Awesome human beings.
Matt's the best.
Yeah, they're so fun. And we are
energy you two would have in a room would be like blow the walls that down. It'd be crazy.
We did a podcast together. It was really fun. And we also talk on a regular basis too. Love him. Awesome human being.
Yeah.
So yeah, we hired Top Advisor Marketing, and they, every month we do a podcast with them. They interview either myself or a guest. We co-interview a guest. Obviously, Jake, I'm going to invite you to our podcast. So whenever
Sounds
you
good
like
to me.
to be available, let me know and let's do it. I'll interview you about your marketing and your successes. How does that sound?
Let's do it. Yeah.
Love it. And they come up every month with about a half an hour-ish is what we shoot for on the podcast. About a normal drive time is the goal. And then they handle everything else, literally all of it. They optimize it for SEO. They post it on social media, and they help us get the word out.
Awesome. Yeah. And I talked to Matt a little bit about that, but I need to kind of push that to more people, because I've been telling this strategy to a lot of advisors. They're like, I don't get any leads. I'm not getting meetings. And I said, well, why don't you make a show? Don't make the show about 401ks. Like that's probably the last thing I would tell them to do. I'd make it about something in your, something about your town, small businesses, whoever your target market is. Sure. Make it about them and invite those target clients that you want to work with onto your show and give them an opportunity to have some value from you. Mm-hmm. You don't even have to bring up that you do 401ks. It's obviously going to come up, and they're going to figure out, well, like, what does this guy do? And this happened. This isn't new. Like real estate agents have done this for years, where come and ride our hot air balloon and for free, and we want to meet you. Like, well,
if you ever want to look at incredibly creative marketing, real estate people, like they are so creative on what they do. And because I don't think they have the same regulatory tape that we do, so they can do all that. I mean, I wouldn't recommend anyone does like bench ads or side of the bus ads.
Yeah.
Skip those. But take a look at the way that they, I mean, I think they're the ones who started that fishbowl. Remember the fishbowl where you go into a restaurant back in the day when we used to eat in restaurants, you like drop your card in the bowl. I think real estate people are the ones who started that. Like it's brilliant. Like little things like that. They're just so outside the box.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, there's definitely some really creative things in other industries that you can learn from. And it's really, I actually know a loan officer, in the real estate industry, that he owns a hot air balloon. He says it's the best thing he's ever done.
So random. So every year in San Diego, there's a conference called Traffic and Conversions. And it's all these like cool people, like way cooler than I am, cool people. And they're talking about this Instagram ads, Facebook, LinkedIn, geofencing your cell phone while you're in the actual territory, click funnels, what the heck is text to join, all these like interesting, like out there stuff. Go
I'm
ahead.
deep into ClickFunnels right now, by the
Yeah.
way.
Okay.
I just got introduced to Russell Brunson. I
Yeah.
go to Boise all the time.
Mhm.
That's why I have an office up there. I'm like deep into it. Right? It's
Sure.
exciting stuff.
Yeah, you can do variations and
Yeah.
so they'll get these people on there and they'll Neil Patel, they'll get him on
I've
there
met
and
Neil Patel in person. He's awesome
yes,
too.
so cool. And I totally nerd out on all this stuff. And I go to these conferences. They have nothing to do with financial services, literally nothing. It's just pure, like quick hit marketing concepts. And
Yeah.
I scribble down a million ideas. Now, 90% of them I have to throw out because of our industry and we just can't use them. But then those like 10% that you can use, you're like, oh, all right. I'm going to bring this idea back to the 401k space and we're going to start implementing it. And so it's a conference, Traffic and Conversions. It's in San Diego every year. And next year, I don't know if they're doing it, but they did a lot live. Digital this year, like kind of live. So
Yeah.
if anyone's interested in checking out some of their new marketing concepts, go for it because you'll learn a ton, even though it's not specifically financial
What's it
services.
called again?
Traffic and Conversions.
Okay. I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna check it out. That's what I
Yeah,
was
it's
gonna
cool.
ask you is who is your inspiration? Like where do you turn? And that's one of those places, but who else do you follow? Like where do you get your ideas from that you can kind of put into this 401k industry?
I read constantly, literally like from from just regular LinkedIn scrolling. I just finished Nudge, Dr. Richard Thaler's book. I don't know why it took me so long to get to it. I belong to Strategic Coach. I get a lot of value out of Strategic Dan Sullivan. So listen to a lot of his podcasts as well. The 10X, the Mind Multiplier. I'm a omnivore, just always trying to learn more. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, I'm the same. I miss traveling for that reason because
Yeah,
that's
me
where I could
too.
really kind of tune everything out and like dive into a book or just
Mm-hmm.
put a full plan together. And I don't know what it is about airplanes, but that's where I can somehow get everything done.
Mm-hmm.
So I miss that. But yeah, I'm
Yeah.
the same. I'm constantly just checking out new places. I honestly met Pat. Well, I didn't meet Pat Flynn, but I found Pat Flynn a few years ago and I've
Mm-hmm.
been a huge fan. I just think his approach to things is so authentic and so real. And it's not in any way like you feel like you're getting pulled into something that, is trying to psychologically trick you. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's actually valuable. And so I've learned a lot from that. And there's a few others like that, but um, I think it's important that we look outside of our industry because we stay so
Yeah.
tight knit and we're sitting here bouncing around in LinkedIn
Mm-hmm.
all the time. And how many wholesalers are stuck at home and they can't even engage. And so they just look through the feed. And then when I talk to them on the phone, like, hey, yeah, I like that video or this video, they're there, they're watching. People are
Yeah.
watching.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of what are you going to do about it? What are you going to take action on?
I
And
think that's a big psychological shift because I was talking to an advisor down in Nashville area, and he was sharing with me that he's in the office, he's bored, so he started cold calling, and I'm like, why? Who are you calling? Like,
we feel like that's work, right? We
right,
feel like that's valuable work. And I don't
right.
know where that comes from.
I mean, I remember when I was 22. And my mentor was a 401k advisor back in Boston. And he handed me an Excel spreadsheet that was printed. And he said, call these companies. And so I like went through and I like called I think it was like 1,000 companies. It took me months to go through and then back through. And I had like some hieroglyphic note to figure out like voicemail versus regular call. So the reason I'm sharing that is because my mentor got at the time, he was probably like 60, successful retirement plan advisor. And that was what his mentor kind of taught him because it was like the cool thing was the phone to call people on the
Yeah.
phone. Like that's
Yeah.
how they cut their teeth in like the 80s. And and I think a lot of us still have mentors in the office who we know, we trust, who we look up to. And if they're still saying, you got to be cold calling, kid, then we do it because we think, okay, they're successful, they know what they're doing. But the shift needs to happen where social media can replace cold calling. And you'll have a better conversation because now it's not cold, they know you.
Yeah. I kind of compare that to like when you're looking for a new car and you pull up to the car lot and there's like 10 salespeople just
Oh
stand
God.
and they just like swarm you
Yeah.
versus now I've learned from those experiences. And now I literally like, I'm looking for a different truck. I know my friend got the truck I like.
Mm-hmm.
I text him, I said, who helped you? Was he good? And I'm
Yeah.
trying to connect, or even go on Instagram and see like, is there someone that's using social media to post that I
Mm-hmm.
can kind of have a conversation started with? Because I don't want that. I don't want someone swarming me. Like if I'm going to buy something, I want to be in control.
Mm-hmm.
And the common thing that advisors do is we go right to that 5,500 list and we go right into all the things they're doing wrong. And we think, oh, if I just tell them they suck at their lineup or their fees are terrible,
Mm-hmm.
that this is going to get them to switch over to me because I'm awesome and I know all the fixes. And that happens so often still. And it's like, you have to return, like spin that up around, because that's not,
Mm-hmm.
put yourself in their shoes. Would that really be appealing? Someone come to you, like if you're buying a car, oh yeah, your truck is, I mean, it's 2 years old. That's garbage. Like,
Terrible.
look at this one. I mean, I can set you up. You know what I mean? Look at that, but that's so common. It's just frustrating to see, because I try to help people get out of that.
Mm-hmm.
And if we
So
do
what's
that, the results will be better. People will get, more plans and they'll do it right. And
mm-hmm.
that leads to that brand and that feeling that you leave when you're the long-term advisor that they love to use.
Yeah. It's
It just takes time.
what is this saying? It's give, ask. Give tons of great content, great information, resources. You got the book?
That's a little Gary
Yeah,
Vee.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. give, ask. Yep.
Yeah.
That's what you got to do.
It's going to take a while.
Mhm.
And that's the hard. I think if we left this today, it's having patience. And if you want to speed up certain tactical things, you've got to start to work with people like yourself, like Matt, like others. Are a lot of really talented individuals in this industry that are giving, and they're giving a lot, and they put out a lot of help. And if you want to accelerate it, you're going to have to pay for it, but it's going to pay off because there's experience there that you are going to take years to learn if you don't pay for it.
That's why we hired Top Advisor Marketing. I don't know anything about podcasting. So I said,
Very good point.
Please help me. Now, on the opposite side of it, if you need help with, blog articles, infographics, content around the 401k world, yeah, we've got that for days, years, actually.
So explain to me. Yeah. So I think that would be good for those listening. When someone wants to engage with 401k marketing, is it like a package deal? Is it we kind of have a consulting talk and see what you need, or how do you put that together? What's the offer that you give to advisors?
Sure. We have kind of 3 different options. First one is we have a content marketing membership where our advisors get access to an entire library of content that's specific to the retirement plan space. And all of our content is pre-approved through a bunch of different broker dealers, which is pretty awesome. Makes it a lot easier. They all have campaign themes. So you can talk about financial wellness, the Secure Act, oh God, there's millions of them. Fiduciary plan governance, plan design education, on all the way down the list. And then everything comes with email templates so you can easily share it. Social media posts, so you can share it on social media. The actual piece of content. Let's say right now it's the end of the year. So like a checklist on tracking down missing participants. Those people are trying to clean up their plan before the year end. Lots of content on that. And then how to follow up, ideas on best practices there. And so every quarter we deliver new materials. So we're staying fresh, topical, and current in the plan sponsor world. So that way, when you're talking with your clients, your centers of influence, as well as your prospects, you always have fresh new ideas you're bringing to the table.
That's interesting. So that's just a monthly membership just to be a part of, and you get that access. I need to spend more time on that. I mean, I like premium content, but to have something at your fingertips that's already put together like that would be really
nice
great to use and make your own, So
yeah.
So then what else? So then I know our firm used in the past to create brochures and all the other materials. Is that still a thing that you're doing?
Yeah. So we have an agency side where we'll sit down with our clients, we'll learn their voices, and then we create content on your behalf. So for For True North, we helped back in the day create brochures, a pitch deck, overviews, fact finders, institutional service calendars. We also do websites for retirement plan advisors as well as TPAs. And then on the agency side, we actually work with a lot of home offices and ghostwrite a significant amount of their content as well.
Awesome.
Yeah. Thanks.
Great. What's the next big thing you think you're going to add to, are you going to add to that? Or are you going to just kind of, things are going well? What do you expect the next step of 401k marketing will be?
I don't know. I have no idea. I have no idea. We always have different irons in the fire. We're trying to figure out how we can help our clients get their name out there in different ways. So as marketing continues to evolve, we're going to try and consistently be a couple steps ahead, so that way our clients are always at the cutting edge, ahead of the curve, and they can share that great content.
Do you feel like personal branding is becoming more of a trend that advisors may want to just be more focused on what their personal brand is versus the firm level? Because it sounds more like that's been some of the things that you've done. I mean, that's what you did for our firm, but personal branding, is that something you guys help out on, or what are your feelings towards that?
Got to be the right person. You know, if you're going to do a personal brand, you got to really be comfortable with who you are. If you're part of a great team, promote the team. I don't have any strong feelings either way or the other. Good people generally tend to stand out, and great teams also continue to rise.
Yeah, very good point. Yeah, some people, it's an evolution of if they want to be that person or not. Yeah, some don't have that desire and some do. And so I'm one of those people. I love it. I love building up my name. I want people like to think when they see 401k, I want to think of me. That's like my whole vision is I want to be the guy. And so I get constant texts and DMs, just random questions from friends and family and other people that are in other industries. What about my plan? And that means I think I'm on the right path. I'm nowhere near where I want to be, but it's just keep at it, you know?
Historically, like the holidays, you know, you get together with your family and you're sitting next to like, you know, your, the rest of your family members. And I always think it's so funny when family members are like, what do you do? And like my dad has played the stock market his whole life. And he'll still to this day, I'll be like, oh, she's a stockbroker. And I'm like, I don't even know how you got to that conclusion, Dad. But okay, I'm clearly a stockbroker.
I love it.
So when
making money when people trade. Yeah.
So I like when people are associating you with the 401k, and hopefully they're asking better questions than my family's asking me.
I think that's a family thing. I mean, Jeannie posted, her sister said something about, have you heard of a safe harbor? And it was so hilarious because it's like, people, that don't live in our world, like the 401k community is so small, but then the people around us are not in it. You know, my poor wife hears it. She knows way more about 401k probably than a huge amount of advisors because I'm constantly like, that's all I talk about. And then I've got to like work on that, but I love it. And it's just such an important part of people's lives. And so I'm passionate about it, but
that's awesome. Hey, that's a good thing that you're passionate about it, because if you weren't, that would be a very, very horrible morning experience every day. But if you love it, it like shines through and people gravitate towards that.
Yeah. That's what I say. Like, if you don't love this, like I would not go down this 401k like hole, because the margins are getting tighter. You have to really like the reason behind you're doing it, and it's not be money. Because there's a lot more money in other areas of financial services, and you should focus on those. This is like, you see results, like you literally can see people get to spend more time with their family. To me, that's the most motivating thing, because that's what motivates me. So I want to see other people do it. And you have to have that in this industry. Otherwise it's just not worth it.
I think, and I know for a fact that the quality retirement plan advisors that we get to be around all the time, they have that passion. And if you ask them their origin story, there's always some moment in that where they're like, I was sitting across from this person and they shared this. And one of the ones I heard at a conference was the retirement plan advisor was talking on the sage about cigarettes, and how a pack of cigarettes is like $7. And if you're smoking a pack a day, how that adds up over time. So not only, is it good to not smoke cigarettes, but also to save that money. And so like 5-6 years goes by, and it was like one of the security guards pulls the advisor aside and goes, "Hey, I wanted to let you know, I went to that talk that you gave on cigarettes and savings, and I quit that day. And I've never smoked since. And and tomorrow's my last day, and I'm gonna retire." And like he told this story, and the entire crowd is crying, and they're like, amazing work. But these are real life stories that every single advisor in our space, because they care so deeply, has an origin story. Now, going back to marketing, wouldn't that be an awesome post about what is your origin story?
Yeah, that's just, it goes back to Russell Brunson. It's like hook, story, offer. Like you've gotta be vulnerable and tell people why you're here. I said no to my first 401k. Like it was a dumb move. I missed out. It would have been great, but I was in a really boring meeting. So now I don't make my meetings boring. I'm like 10 minutes. We're not going to get in the market at all. We're just going to talk about this plan, give you the details, and we're moving on. And I'll sit around and answer your questions individually. But it was real motivating to me because it turned me off from it and I missed out. So yeah, you're totally right. Stories are where it's at. And that's a huge part of marketing. You tell your story.
So I would say we're moving into 2021. For anyone listening to today's podcast, block an hour off on your calendar. Just find an hour. Doesn't matter when it is, next week, week after that, find an hour and call it 2021 thinking time. Thinking time. And when you sit down, get out a piece of paper or a Word doc, whatever you prefer. I think that's important. I like doing my thinking time on a yellow legal pad. That's just, my brain works that way. I get a pen. Most people remember what those are.
I got my book. I got my K on it. Like, every idea like dropped in there. I'm trying to go paperless, and then I went back to my book.
Same here. I've tried. It doesn't connect the same way with my iPad, but I get a yellow pad and a pen, thinking time, and then just write out, let's say, I'm going to say 12 things, 12 questions that your clients have asked you at one point in your life. 12 questions. Just write out 12 questions. Doesn't matter what it is. What is a 401k? What is a safe harbor? Why are you in this business? Whatever they are, write them down. Some of them can be awesome. Some of them you're going to realize right away are not that great, but try and come up with 12 that you're confident on. Then once you have your 12, guess what you just did?
You just built out every month.
Every month. You got a topic, and then pick some sort of medium that you want to answer that question on. So if you had a question from one of your clients about plan design, like what is a safe harbor, for example, host a webinar. Ask your favorite TPA, like, hey, can we do a quick webinar? 20 minutes, 30 minutes, just explain what a safe harbor is. If someone asked you, why are you in this business? Grab your iPhone, set it up, record a quick video, tell people about it, and figure out whatever the medium is that you want to share that message on. And just put a little asterisk next to it and say email, video, webinar, etc.
And you can make a longer format of that answer, and then you can chop it up and put it into Word. You can do a little video. Like you can repurpose a long form content in so many ways that it really allows you to not have to spend all this time trying to think, what's another question I can answer? Let's do one about Roth again. Like, no, like you can come up with new stuff and put it into that long format. And that's a huge Gary Vee thing. I mean, that's something I knew better at too, but it's so easy now. Literally all my editing I do on my phone because I can't do it very well on my computer. Like it's so easy now, and it's free. So there's no barrier to entry to put content out and just be real. So, and if you need help, I mean, that's why there's people like you and your team.
Hey, happy to help. We have, and content keeps evolving too. The different ways people like to consume it. It always is kind of getting modified or adjusted. We keep on track with that, and we track everything actually. And we try and make sure that every piece of content is going to educate, empower, and hopefully entertain the people who are reading it.
Yeah, it's a very good point. Keep it fun. Well, Rebecca, I appreciate you spending time today. I've always loved seeing you out there and hearing your podcast and all the things you're doing. I hope that we get back to like live conferences soon so we can talk in person.
Dude.
Hope to be in Nashville next year. I'm sad we didn't make it to Vegas for Excel, but there's going to be some good conferences. Hopefully we get all that sorted out soon. So
Well,
appreciate
thank you
your
again,
time.
Jake.
Have a wonderful day, Rebecca. You can reach Rebecca online, hit her on LinkedIn. She's all over the place. If you can't find her, I'd be shocked, but I'll put the links in the show notes.
Excellent. Thank you again, Jake. Really appreciate the invitation. Happy holidays, everyone.